Good evening and welcome to Ask the Expert. Tonight we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Gabriella Cora Locatelli. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
She goes by Gabby.
That's
She
right.
likes it informal.
Long name. Long name deserves a short,
Gabby.
informal. Yes.
She is here from Miami, so we have imported her into the southern capital of the world. You might think Miami is, but Atlantans call themselves the southern capital of the world. So welcome, and we're really glad for you to be here this evening and share with us about leading under pressure. And one of the things that we really have to look at is most of our viewers are running businesses. There is lots of pressure that they've got, and they are just totally in it. And we've talked about that a little bit off the air, so we're going to talk a lot about that and how you get started and doing those types of things. But I need to do a little housework first, okay?
Perfect.
All right. For those of you who are with us for the first time this evening, welcome. You are looking at Gabby and I in what we call the video window, which is where we'll be talking, and both of us are pretty animated with our hands, which is fine. And over on your right, you're going to see what we call the graphics window. And right now you have call in and chat in, and below us is your chat box. We do chat a little bit differently than everybody else. Our chat is one way. And what that means is that when you have a question for Gabby, all you do is type it in. Nobody else sees the questions. Nobody else can see that you're typing something in for her. And it's one way. We're the only ones who see it, and the producer in the back. Other than that, that's it. So it's a safe question. And when we're talking about pressure situations and dealing with people, a lot of times people need anonymity to be able to do that. If you are brave, you can call us. In the Atlanta area, it's 678-969-2797. If you're outside the Atlanta area, it's 800-511-6844. If you do choose to call us, you will have to turn down your speakers on your monitor because we have a delay. We believe in the 7 bad words that the FCC doesn't let us have. So we're really doing that type of thing and being a clean, neat show. So turn down your monitors and your speakers on your monitors because what will happen is you'll hear yourself echo in that. So, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Gabby's contact information. Would you like to read it or would you like me to read it?
Sure.
Good.
My contact information, the phone number is 305-762-7632, and you can reach me at gcl@executivehealthwealth.com.
Okay. And you do answer your phone and you do answer your emails.
I do.
Even on an airplane, I got an email from you today.
Yes. Thanks to
BlackBerry
yes.
or Blueberry, whichever one you've got.
Yes.
All right, tonight what we're going to do is we're going to cover Gabby's background. Then we're going to talk about the myth, and it really is a myth of a work-life balance. And it's been proposed, and the media has said it's work-life balance, and people have tried doing it. And we'll talk more about that as we get into it. We're talking about leading under pressure, which is your pretty much trademark, and how you started doing that, and the plan, the development plan, and then finally the new life balance plan. Did we get it right?
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about you.
Okay. Do you want me to get
started?
Go
start.
Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how leading under pressure came to existence with that. My background is as a physician. I'm a medical doctor and an MBA candidate, and you may wonder why I decided to do both things. Basically, my interest has been in merging and integrating business model with a medical and health-related model as well. That's really my task, my mission. I sort of have this calling to be able to do this. Now, at the same time, other than being a professional and career woman and entrepreneur, I'm also married. I have children, and I have a life as well. So I would say that the leading under pressure part has come from both ends, not only my expertise as a physician in dealing with many people who have been dealing or leading under pressure on a regular basis, but also from my own experiences in leading under pressure myself.
So you've got the mom side and you've got the business side, and you work with people of all walks of life, basically executives and business owners and people who are in management positions pretty much all over the country.
Yes. What I've done is I continue to practice medicine. I'm a psychiatrist by training. My area of expertise is mood and anxiety disorders. So in my practice as a psychiatrist, I've tended to see people in a wide spectrum of presentations. I've seen those people who may have wanted to improve in their lifestyles and do better and produce and perform better, but I've also seen people who've been burnt out, who've been terribly depressed or suffering with panic attacks and some other problems that have brought them to my office.
And you got them all well, right?
Hopefully. Yes. Now, this is, again, the interesting part about my practice is I tend to continue to see people who may need an integrative approach, and in that practice I do a combination of interventions. But the twist that has occurred in my practice has been developing Executive Health and Wealth more as a consulting group. And we are an expert group that complements one another. We have PhD organizational psychologists. We also have a lawyer. We have a mediator, an arbitrator, financial experts, and human resource experts to really try to bring in our mission together, which is to maximize and promote productivity and performance, but with health and well-being to improve society as a whole.
I had heard, and I had read, you and I talked about the Fast Company article about, we knew about the problems in the 50s, and they haven't gotten any better because we haven't done anything about them.
And we're getting busier and busier, and the demands are going higher and higher. And now many other things have changed. We can even see with the demands from children growing up in school. You know, the demands are such that the kids should be sitting down for 8 hours at a time with very little physical activity, for example. And that is being translated with the adults in a very similar way. So the expectations have changed, and the demands have increased. And the amount of information that we're privy to now has also increased in an amazing way. So the BlackBerry can be a blessing or a curse if you don't know when to stop, or you know how to really maximize it to help you out in your job, but not to feel a slave to it because you're taking a shower and checking it with the other hand.
That's a little much. You know, part of the things that I absolutely refuse to do, which drives my husband absolutely nuts, is that when I go on my long runs, I refuse to take my cell phone. I absolutely refuse. It's my time.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And he's like, well, if something happens, well, there's enough phones around somewhere that I can go knock on a door and get a phone.
Yes, you do have to set up some limits in terms of saying, well, you know, does it make sense for me to be able to take this break? I mean, in all honesty, I've overheard colleagues answering to a telephone call in the bathroom. And I think it's not a good, you know, it's not good business to do that. So, you know, I think it is important for us to try to figure out when it is time for business and when it is time for ourselves, for our families, and to be able to take good care of that as well.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the work-life balance. Now, how did that get started, actually?
Well, you know, I really propose that the life-work balance issue is a total myth. If we lived in an ideal world, we would probably work for 8 hours at a time. We would probably have recreational activities for another 8 hours, and we would sleep for another 8 hours. But how many of you live in this ideal world?
None of us.
You know, in the real world, we're actually working 12, 13, 14 or more hours at a time. The recreational activities really go down to a minimum, and that's the first part to go. Whenever we need to work some more, what happens is we start doing less of those fun, recreational, physical activities. And then, if we really want to work even more, where are we going to get that time from? We're going to get it from sleep. So that's where you have a very big mix of what's going on and some of the messes that we're seeing in that respect. And that's why I really believe that this life-work balance issue is more of a myth. It is really about integrating very effective strategies to make sure that people can work well, but at the same time be relaxed while they work, and not have this sort of dual activities where I've seen this. Someone has been working very, very hard, and they rush to a yoga class, and in yoga they become very relaxed, and as soon as the yoga class is over, they rush back to their hectic style. That does not work well, and it's not good for us in any shape or form. It's not good for our minds, for our bodies, or for our spirits. What we really have to try to do is, how is it that we can relax even as we work hard? That is one of the most important things that we should look into in terms of trying to figure out how to do to work well, to live well, and longer and better.
So where did the real, I mean, everybody has the myth of having it all. We really can't, can we?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I believe that we can. The thing is, we probably can't have it all at once or at the same time, at the same moment. But I do believe that it is very important for us to realize that we are the ones who can limit whatever we can have. If I believe that I cannot be a professional person and have a family, chances are that's not going to happen to me. When I graduated as a medical doctor, I was actually 24 years old. I had a 9-month-old baby and a 25-month-old baby. I was the only graduating female with one kid at the time. But at the same time, when I got pregnant, many people said, you can't graduate as a physician with a child.
Why not?
I was like, why not? So for some people, there are some things that can't happen or shouldn't happen, but that's where it really depends on what our beliefs are about. If I had believed that I was not going to be able to go through medical school, if I had a baby, chances are I would not have been able to do it. Looking back, I realized it was a lot of work. But at the time, I really believed that I could do it, and I had a lot of help from my husband, from my family, and things worked out very nicely. But, it's like at the time I was really convinced that I was able to do that.
And so you were.
I was.
Yeah. I mean, who was the one who said whatever you believe is right and whatever you don't believe is right? I think Henry Ford said something along those lines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you believe, if you're going to start walking up the mountain and you think you're never going to do it, the chances of you doing it are going to be slim. If you're going to start going up the mountain and it's going to be hard, but you're taking your time, step by step, building each one of your, little stepping stones, then you're going to get there.
Slowly.
But you're going to get there.
You're going to get there. All right. To those of you who want to call us, it's 800-511-6844 outside the Atlanta area. Inside Atlanta, it's 678-969-2797. Or you can chat in. So those of you, please start chatting in questions. You ready for questions?
Sure.
All right, as we get through it. All right, let's talk about leading under pressure. It started, because you were on the road for a while, weren't you?
I was on the road for a while, traveling a lot. In my career path, after training, I also worked at the National Institutes of Health as a researcher in mood and anxiety disorders. And then I joined one of the pharmaceutical companies where I had to travel pretty much of my time. So that sort of forced me in a way to try to figure out how can I live well and at the same time work well with very high expectations and be able to perform at my very highest, but at the same time be well. So leading under pressure has a little bit of that experience of having been through, needing to have a very hectic schedule, go from one city to the next in very little time, perform at the very highest in a very competitive environment. And that's why I sort of feel that, well, it's not only my expertise that is being brought in, but my experience as well for having gone through that myself.
So you've walked the walk.
I've walked the walk and I talked the talk, definitely.
All right, so how do we do it? When you start saying setting priorities, what does that really mean?
Okay. This is one of the most important parts to begin with. How is it that you set up a priority? If, for example, you realize that you have 3 major things that you need to do in your near future, and you set all of those priorities for yesterday, then chances are you're really going to stress yourself out before you even begin. So one of the important things about setting up priorities would be to try to figure out what it is that you definitely need to do and try to lay it out ahead in time, so that you can try to figure out how much time you have to accomplish each one of those steps.
Okay.
So for example, sometimes we may say, I need to do these 3 things and I need to do them this month. And then I would ask people, well, do you truly need to do this in the next month or so, or could you have a little more time? And then these 3 things, do you really need to do them? And sometimes, believe it or not, I ask people and they may say, well, I should have done this 2 years ago. And then I may ask them, well, why haven't you done it 2 years ago if you really needed to do it? And if, let's try to see if you really need to be able to do this, or why has it been in the back burner, or should you just not do it at all? So in that art of prioritizing, that's one of the exercises that, we think about.
Is it sometimes fear that just keeps them from doing some of the things? Like I know a lot of times when I work with companies, they say, well, I should have done this 3 years ago. Is it fear that keeps them apart, or what is it?
Well, the fear is sort of a negative cycle because at a certain point in time, you don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. Mm-hmm. Because there is fear because there is this embarrassing feeling of not having accomplished something that you should have done. But that puts so much pressure on the person that it makes it even more difficult to complete that task. Because now it's not only the task that the person has to complete, but it's also this weight that they've placed upon themselves with the stress that they need to do it.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot heavier than the task itself. And that's one of the major exercises that we do. It's the task alone. We try to compartmentalize it into just that task and take away all the rest of the emotion that's really messing up this task. You've got the thing and you've got the emotion about the thing. Yes, and that's the heavy part, and that's where the fear comes in, and that's when it can be a negative cycle because then, it's a catch-22. You have not completed this. You're still wondering whether or not you should complete it, but then you're like in a kind of movement that does not exist. So in a way, you have to either decide whether or not you have to discard that task altogether, and if you need to do it, set up a deadline so that you can complete it. If you should have done it over the past 2 years, you have not done it yet, but you realize that it is important for you to finish it up, okay, lessons learned, lay it out for the next month or so if it's really important, break it down into smaller tasks if that's what's been the inconvenience or the difficulty and you're being able to resolve this, and then start doing it step by step and give yourself a pat on the shoulder every time you're able to accomplish one part into the solution of the overall task.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like it's the fear of getting started sometimes. It's, you've got this mountain in front of you and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, and it's just getting there and do you find that people are also fearful of finishing it?
Well, this is a very important issue that we also see, for example, with the weight management issues.
Okay.
Sometimes people want to start exercising or want to start a diet, and it looks like so huge a task that they have already been defeated before they get started. There's a lot of fear about that. There is some fear about, will I be able to complete it? But that is mostly related to the fear of not being able to complete it. Every time someone starts a new diet or every time that someone starts a new exercise program and quits within, some part of getting it started, it sort of brings them back 2 or 3 times to a worse place than before they got started, because it reminds them every time they did not succeed in that task.
All right, so we need to make sure that we start it, get somebody to help us, a spouse, a kid, somebody who can help push us along the way, and not only ourselves give ourselves a pat on the back, but have them go, Mom, go, Dad, go, you're starting to look good.
Decide to do it. Make sure that you've made that decision, because it starts off with you. When you have that intention, when you've decided that this is something really important for you, then bring in everyone that can support you. Tell them up front and tell them with a strong voice, I've resolved to do this, and I do need your help. And if there's anything specific that you can ask them to help you with, tell them, I think that you could help. Could you help me out if you did this or that? That would really help me out. For example, if you're in a diet, and in the middle of a diet, and someone is always bringing in candy, just make sure that you ask them to please eat the candy outside, because it really tempts you. And because you've resolved not to have any candy at home, that's one of the things that you've resolved to do. But if you're not resolved to do it and you ask for that on the outside, it does not work. People need to see that you've committed yourself to doing it, and it's going to be a lot easier for them to help you out, because they're seeing it in your eyes. That mom or the spouse or the family member has made a decision to do something, and that they're asking for help. It's not like you're asking an open-ended question, can you help me? You're saying, think about how is it that they can help you. and ask them if they can help you in that specifically. That helps with the intention.
Yeah. Let's take it from another perspective. I know I've spoken at a lot of trade shows, and you've spoken at a lot of trade shows, and people come up to you and they say, I got this really good idea, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I find continually, and I hear it from the employees of the owners of these companies that, oh gosh, she went through another trade show. That means we're going to have ideas for the next few minutes. And then we're going back to the way it was. So don't worry about this one this time. How do we deal with that?
Okay, so be a little more specific.
Okay.
Tell me a little more about it. Do you have any example?
I have an example.
Tell me the example you have
and people can chat in examples too if you'd
okay.
like. Let's assume that we went to a trade show, and it was a trade show for heating and air conditioning contractors.
Okay.
And at this trade show, the owner of a company got a really good idea about how to increase revenues by doing specific types of telephone calls. And I don't want to make it so specific, but that. And so he came back and got his people together and said, we're going to do this. And they did it, and they tracked it for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and the employees had seen this before. So they knew that this was just the latest fad, so to speak. And as a result of it, 3 weeks later, he stopped tracking it. They went back to the old ways. I mean, what is in it? What is that?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. In my mind, one of the things that happened, that comes to mind is the fact that this may have been a very good idea, but it looks like it was one person had the good idea, but maybe if they had been able to bring in the rest of the team and try to figure out how to do it this time in contrast to other times in which they had done it before, that may have been more interesting. When you have a team that has already tried this idea out and they know that it has not worked, and the way that you're bringing it in is exactly the same way as before, chances are it won't work. Yeah. But if you're able to sort of say, well, I know that we've tried this before, I still believe it is a good idea. Is there anything that we can do in a different way and plan it ahead of the game? Because right now, in that case, that idea has not worked twice. So
it's almost like the diet that hasn't worked twice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the frustration level is higher than the first time.
Okay.
So in that case, how would you need to bring this forward? The nicest thing, in my opinion, to bring an idea forward is to really think about it pretty nicely, lay out a good plan, try to think not only in terms of what needs to be done, the overall goal, but try to break it down and lay out some timetable in which you would like to accomplish some things. Now, this is another interesting issue. Some people are very visual. They have an idea, they have a vision, and it's very clear in their minds, but they may not be able to translate it as easily to other people that they may work with. And that may bring a lot of frustration to everyone, to the person who had the idea because they clearly see that they're not translating this idea effectively, and to the other folks who are trying to read his or her mind to try to figure out what it is that they want to do. So for people who are very visual in that respect, it is very important that they sit down before they communicate the idea to give it a little more shape or form, put it in other terms, try to put it verbally, and try to lay it out so that when they communicate it to other people, it makes more sense. They can also check with someone that they really trust first to check it out.
How do we do this? Yeah.
How do we do this? Because I really believe it's a great idea and we should pursue it.
Okay, let's. We kind of got off the subject there, but anyway, we finished with, for all intents and purposes, the leading under pressure. Now, how do we develop this plan?
Okay. So the first part of the plan is the development plan. And for that part, what I really like to suggest is to fix what's not working now first before we move on to the future. Many people ask me, how do you lay out a plan for the future? And I'm like, okay, to lay out this plan for the future, for my recipe, for the best menu for the future, I really need the ingredients today.
Okay.
If I don't have what it takes today, my future plan is not going to be in good shape. So I really try to fix whatever's not working right now, make sure that we prioritize, and make sure that the idea is for constant improvement. Even if everything seems to be working okay, that's going to be the structure, the foundation that we're going to use for that future.
So if you know an employee shouldn't be there, you get rid of the employee?
Well, you really talk to the employee and you try to figure out if this is the best relationship, the best match for both of them. Because if an employee is to stay in that position, everyone should be a winner in that situation. It shouldn't be or the employer or the employee, the employee. It should be everyone.
Okay, we have a question here. How do you prioritize what to fix first?
That's a great question. Well, this is one of the most exciting and at the same time challenging issues. When you have 3 priorities, it's not that much of a big deal. But if you're writing 20 priorities, then you will have to start dealing with 3 at a time. I usually like to work with 3s because
Why?
it's easier. It's just easier.
Okay.
If you have 20 priorities, start dividing them, rank them first.
Okay.
And then start off with the top 3, because the top 3 in my mind are going to be the most important ones. Once you've been able to check on those and worked on those first, then you can go on to the next 3. Some other people advocate starting off with the easiest tasks.
See, I go with the hardest task first.
Well,
that's me.
I have an issue with starting with the easiest ones, because you don't want to start with the easiest ones if they're number 20. You really want to start working, with the things that are the most important. Those are the ones that give you the most rewards as well, because you realize that there's something really important that you need to do. You check it off, you're feeling very comfortable. So if you have 3, a priority of 3, rank them. And start off with the most important one. Lay out, some timetable in which you want to resolve this. If you have 20, rank them as well, but only concentrate on the top 3 first, and then start going one by one to clean your desk.
Well, the interesting thing is that you can also say to your employees, okay, here are the things that we have to do, and get group consensus as to the top 3, because that might also solve that issue about, you tried this before.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if this, in real life, okay, in the business world, you will probably have some ongoing priorities. And but at the same time, you may have some emergent priorities that you will need to fix in the here now and drop everything else. And in that respect, I would say that as business people, it's a little bit different from the athlete who can take some rest between a match or from game to game. But the executive is really sort of going all the time, and there's very little time to just relax. So start off with those priorities, and if something comes in as a crisis, resolve it as soon as possible. If it is a crisis, don't leave it there, because the crisis that's this small, if left untouched, is going to be huge by the end of the week.
And also, it becomes your number 1 priority at that point.
Exactly. That sort of moves, and that's a great concept. The prioritization issue is not stable. You change it all the time. You can do that. Imagine it as a work in process, and it doesn't mean that it's carved in stone. If you have an emergency, and it may very well go into number 1, and then the 3 things that you're going to concentrate on may be crisis, and what was before. Point 1 is now 2,
and then
3.
And 3, and then go from there. All right. So, what do we do from a new life business plan?
For the new life business plan. So after we fix the part that is broken, or that really needs some work on it, then we really try to look ahead of the game. And many people usually ask me, well, how do you create a plan for the future? So my first point is fix. Again, whatever's not working fine today, and for the New Life Business Plan, make yourself really strong today. So for example, in my case, I'm a physician. I feel very comfortable, very confident as a physician. But as I was going a lot more into the business world, I felt like I was having a lot more experience within the business world, but I also felt that having an MBA was going to be helpful to me as I was helping other business people. So for me, that was something that helped me grow strong in what I was developing in a way. And for you, it may be exactly the same. It may be training. It may be getting more experience, getting more expertise, bringing in tougher challenges so that you can make sure that this is in good shape. The second part is very important in terms of establishing your own value system. And in the New Life Business Plan, what we do is to align and integrate the personal with the professional and organizational values, mission, and vision. Because what I've seen is that those folks that are truly, truly happy themselves as people and within their corporations are those people that feel very integrated, very aligned in a way with their value system. If you believe that you're working in an organization where your values are not matched, you may be there on a temporary basis. Let's put it that way. Yeah. You're not going to stay that long because you're not going to be a happy camper. And the organization is probably, you may be doing a great job, but it may not be a good fit.
And you're not happy.
Think about it. You're not happy, which is the most important thing. And if you're not happy, then other things start happening. So it is very important for you to realize that in terms of that alignment, that is key for you to make sure that you do enjoy your value system. For example, we were coaching someone who wanted to make a lot of money. And he had, in this case, he had set up such an amount of money that he wanted to make that he stopped seeing his family and friends, and he felt like pretty isolated.
Okay.
Now, in his case, he was a very sociable guy. So he was missing on that time that energized him in such a way that it just didn't work out for him. So he realized that all the money that he was craving for did not give him all the energy that he was really missing on. So that value part is key. And then it is about aligning that mission and vision. Mission in the present. Mission and vision are exactly the same thing. The difference is mission is in your here and now, vision is tomorrow. Work on your mission today. How do you see yourself within your family, within yourself, within your profession, within your organization? And how is it that, where would you like to see yourself in the future? If I believe that I wanted to be an engineer, well, I'm nowhere closer to being an engineer 5 years from now. I'm doing nothing to become that engineer. But on the other end, if what I envision for myself, I can work on it little by little, aligning each step of the way, I'm going to get there.
Absolutely. All right, in the time that we have left, give us 3 things that we can take away tonight, do tomorrow, and start this whole process and see some results.
Okay. So the first thing is, which you can really start doing tonight. In your development plan, try to identify just 3 things that you really need to fix so that you can move on and ahead of the game. The second part is prioritize the things that not only you have to fix, but that you can also do to move along that way. Make yourselves as strong today. Create a little plan to see how it is that you can make yourself very, very strong today with an eye in the future, so that will help you go each step of the way so that you can get there.
Okay, and the third?
Okay, so...
That was 2. Fix it, prioritize it.
Fix it, prioritize, and, well, fix it with a development plan, you're right. And then align. Align your personal, professional, and organizational values. Work on the value, the mission, and the vision. Make sure that all of that is one.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. If you would like to contact Gabby or Dr. Gabriella Cora Locatelli, if we want to use your
full name,
it's 305-762-7632 or GCL, which is a lot quicker, at executivehealthwealth.com. All right, Gabby, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to just spend a few minutes talking about next week, which is Memorial Day weekend. So we will not have a program on Ask the Expert next Monday night. But we have some really cool things happening this week. Tomorrow on Advanced People, and I'm going to read this. It's effective and effortless difficult conversations. Because I can't even say it that quickly. It'd be a tongue twister for me. And how to really deal with people. And that you have to discipline, hire, fire, and those types of things. That's on Advanced People. And then on Wednesday, we'll be talking about impacts marketing and identifying the customer list who can really help you grow and build your business. Thursday, we have, good question, we have financial literacy with scorecards and understanding the financial side of your business. And Friday is cultural connections and really understanding dealing with difficult and different cultures than you're really used to working with. So that's what's on this week. And obviously, we have news at 7 o'clock in the morning. And Gabby, again, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
My pleasure. And thanks to all of you. We will see you in 2 weeks for blogs. And have a great week. Have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. And we'll see you soon. Have a great night. Good night.